Are there artificial wormholes out there? It's possible. A new study says that it might not even take an advanced civilization too long to make one. So could we be cruising through the galaxy on wormhole highways soon? Let's dive in. Even though science fiction has played around with the idea of artificial wormholes for decades now, they haven't really been considered a serious topic of conversation among scientists until recently. Most of the time when wormholes are discussed in scientific circles, the talk centers around naturally occurring wormholes. But in this new paper, NASA scientists are putting forth the idea that aliens, if they exist, might be able to build their own wormholes, which would be awesome because that means we can use them too. The idea that life might have evolved elsewhere in the universe is nothing new. In fact, scientists believe it's extremely likely that life does exist out there somewhere. What's much harder to answer is whether or not that life will be intelligent and, more importantly, advanced enough to reach out into the stars. If that is possible, then traveling between star systems is going to be key. And what better way to get from here to there than through a wormhole? Let's take a look at why wormholes are so important, how they work, and how we might build our very own. The biggest problem with getting to other stars is distance. Even the closest star system to ours, Alpha Centauri, is over for light years away. At 4% the speed of light, it would take a spaceship 80,000 years to get there. That's a big fat no from everyone who isn't planning on living to be 80,000 years old. But if we had a shortcut like a wormhole, we could bypass all that interstellar distance. A wormhole is basically a tunnel that connects to distant points in spacetime, allowing you to travel between them instantly. They are predicted by Einstein's theory of general relativity, which describes how gravity works, but we have never actually observed one. Scientists have also never found any definitive evidence that they even exist. Still, scientists believe that if they do exist, wormholes probably wouldn't be too hard to spot since they would have a huge gravitational anomaly around them. In theory, you just need some negative mass to make a wormhole. Negative mass doesn't exist naturally, as far as we know, but scientists believe that it may be possible to create a small amount artificially. The two scientists behind this new paper believe that if an advanced alien civilization was trying to colonize other star systems, they would likely be the kind of civilization that would be able to produce the negative mass needed to build a wormhole. In the paper, the authors write, "We consider the possibility that these hypothetical wormholes were artificially created by a civilization for the purpose of interstellar travel. We show that wormholes could be propelled by an exotic form of matter with negative energy density, which can be thought of as antimatter except for the fact that it violates unitarity." This new paper builds off of previous research conducted by one of the authors, David Kipping. In 2021, Kipping published a paper proposing that wormholes could be used as a new type of spacecraft called a negative energy propulsion. Just to be clear, the paper wasn't saying that wormholes existed. Instead, Kipping proposed that negative energy could be used as fuel to propel a vehicle. He said that if we had a way to generate negative energy, we could use it to build spaceships that would need less fuel and could go faster. But unfortunately, the idea didn't really go anywhere until now. The second author of the new paper, Zachariah K. Manzella, reached out to Kipping after reading his 2021 paper. Together they came up with the idea that negative energy could be used to create wormholes. The two scientists worked together to write this new paper, and it was just published in the journal Classical and Quantum Gravity. So how exactly would an alien civilization use negative energy to create a wormhole? To understand that, we need to look at how wormholes work. The inside of a wormhole is basically a one-way street. Whatever goes in can't come back out unless you close one end. Think of it like a piece of paper. If you punch a hole through the middle of it, you've created a wormhole. Now you can put a marble on one side of the paper and let go. The marble will fall through the hole and appear on the other side. The marble can't go back the way it came. There's no turning around inside the wormhole. That means if you wanted to send something through a wormhole, you would have to give it enough energy to push it through. You would have to keep pushing on the object the whole time it is inside the wormhole until it comes out on the other side. Basically, you need a negative energy wormhole to pull things through to a positive energy universe. And that's where negative energy comes in. It's a little complicated, but here's the basic idea. All mass has positive gravity. It pulls things toward it. If you had a bunch of mass bunched together, like a planet, for example, it would have a strong gravitational pull. But if you took that same amount of mass and spread it out, like a thin sheet over a large area, the gravitational pull would be much weaker. According to Einstein's theory of general relativity, gravity warps spacetime. So, if you have less gravity, it's like there's less gravity pulling things down. Space-time is less warped. That means if you had a big, massive planet and a thin sheet of mass floating in space, the thin sheet would actually accelerate toward the planet. That's because space-time is less warped near the planet than it is near the thin sheet. So, space-time itself pulls the sheet toward the planet. That's basically how gravity works, just in case you were confused. Now, if you could take that thin sheet of mass and bend it backward, it would actually start accelerating away from the planet. That's because space-time is less warped far away from the planet. So space-time pulls the sheet away from the planet. If you could somehow create a sheet of negative mass, it would be like taking a trampoline and bending it backward. Anything placed on the trampoline would shoot up toward the sky because space-time is less warped far away from the trampoline. A positive mass would experience negative gravity, so it would be pulled up. If you had a positive mass on one end and a negative mass on the other, you could use the negative gravity to keep pushing the positive mass through the wormhole. So you wouldn't have to put in any extra energy. The negative gravity would keep feeding the positive mass, propelling it forward. It sounds great in theory, but there are a couple of problems with this idea. First off, as far as we know, negative mass doesn't exist. But if it did exist, we wouldn't be able to hold on to it for long enough to build a spaceship, let alone a wormhole. If you managed to create even a tiny bit of negative mass, the second it touched anything, it would blast right through it like a rocket ship. That's because negative mass would be repelled by regular mass, but it would also be repelled by negative mass. It would be like if you tried to push two magnets together, except it would be way stronger. Still, that might not be a huge problem. If negative mass can't be contained, maybe it's possible to contain a wormhole. Maybe all you would have to do is create a bubble of negative energy around a wormhole, and then the negative gravity would keep it stable. The authors of the new paper think it's possible. In the paper, they write, the results presented here suggest that wormholes could potentially be stabilized by a shell of negative energy, thereby making them traversable and perhaps enabling interstellar travel. It's a neat idea, but there are still a lot of problems. For one thing, negative mass is only one solution to the wormhole equation. We don't know if negative energy would work. Another problem is that we don't know if wormholes even exist. For all we know, they could be extremely rare. So, building one might be next to impossible. Still, the idea is fun to think about. If we ever do discover that wormholes exist, it would open up the entire galaxy to us. We could travel to distant star systems in mere seconds. That means we could leave Earth and explore new worlds. Or we could go back in time and prevent humanity from ever being born. I'm just kidding. Don't worry. Time travel is impossible, or is it? If you enjoyed this video, maybe watch this video on string theory next. And if you want to learn more about space and science, subscribe for updates.